Hey guys, 2020 MMA back at it again, and I'm going to be doing a segment here called Flashback Fridays, where I dive in and take a look at some of the past events that helped shape this sport that we love. And I'm going to start off with my first episode, reviewing the first ever Ultimate Fighter finale between Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar. Let's check it out. April 9th, 2005. That was the night the first season of The Ultimate Fighter officially wrapped up with the final event at the Cox Pavilion in Las Vegas. More importantly, it's the night Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar went 3 wild rounds for the honor of being the light heavyweight winner of that first Ultimate Fighter season, and in doing so, maybe saved the UFC or even all of MMA. So what was the show? It started off with a reality show. You take 16 fighters, 8 middleweights and 8 light heavyweights, pair them with a couple coaches who are going back and forth for the title at that point in time, Randy Couture and of course Chuck Liddell. Put them all into a house, except for the coaches, and record everything they do. As UFC executives would later frame it, this was a final Hail Mary, one last shot at getting on TV and getting noticed. It worked, for a price. But it couldn't work this way indefinitely. The UFC put the right pieces in place, but it needed everything to go off right for the gamble to pay off. Now you can put some fights on cable TV, but as we know, you can't guarantee fights will be good. So this was the UFC situation headed into the first Ultimate Fighter finale. The main card consisted of only 3 fights, giving almost no time for momentum to build. It was headlined by a light heavyweight bout between rising contender Rich Franklin and aging star Ken Shamrock, who was past his prime even then. But first came the middleweight finale, where Diego Sanchez literally and absolutely mauled an undersized Kenny Florian to become the first Ultimate Fighter in UFC history. Now, neither of these fights were particularly great because, for one, mostly one was one-sided and looking like more like showcases than competitions, to be honest. They both ended in the first round, providing a combined total of just over 5 minutes worth of action. But this was perfectly sandwiched in between the real magic of the night. Now, Griffin joined the cast of The Ultimate Fighter after requesting a leave of absence from his job as a sheriff's deputy in Georgia, where he actually promised his superiors that he would he would conduct himself in a manner that will not embarrass you or his department. Aside from the occasional stir-crazy moments while, locked in the house, he mostly kept that promise, or at least far better than most of his peers. Bonnar, on the other hand, was a jovial Carlson Gracie product who had submitted Mike Swick to punch his ticket to the finale, despite almost getting kicked off the show for sneaking out of the house to buy booze at one point in the filming. Pretty crazy. But even if you hadn't watched every episode of the reality show, you likely had no idea who either of them were. Even if you did watch the show, you had a limited idea of what to expect. What really sold these fights were the perpetrated stakes. 2 men, 1 6-figure UFC contract. Now, was it a pretty fight? I don't think so. But what it lacked in technical grace, it more than made up for in intensity. Now, the fighters spent the first round taking turns on offense, both men landing wild strikes that brought cheers from the crowd and literally utterances of surprise and delight from the commentators. But this first round wasn't even halfway over at this point. Soon the battle took on its own rhythm. One man wading in, looping punches, while the other hung back waiting to counter. Then the messy struggle in close, knees and short uppercuts from the clinch, each man searching for that other person's breaking point. In the second, this is where things really got messy, because thanks to a cut around Griffin's eye, soon the blood was flowing and the pace only seemed to increase, as if just the sight of blood jacked up both men's intensity. But as the fighters got more tired at an identical rate, that's when the fight seemed more desperate and more urgent. Each man seemed like he could barely stand, or like he might just be one good shot away from being planted on his butt. But yeah, each time that shot came, he weathered it, they absorbed it, and somehow fired back of his own will. It didn't seem like it could possibly last, but somehow also felt like it could never end. It was just crazy. It really was the quality more than any other that most effectively served the UFC's purpose at that time. By the end, picking a winner was almost like flipping a coin. Buffer got on the mic and informed the fans that they had just witnessed 3 rounds of the greatest action scene in the history of the Octagon. Already, the legend was building. The judges went unanimously for Griffin, who could only smile in mild surprise as he raised his arms. Bonner sunk slowly to his knees and then collapsed into his face. An act that seemed like disappointment and part total exhaustion. It was Griffin who pulled him back to his feet and actually embraced him, all while Buffer asked the crowd to give a big hand to Stephen Bonner. Now, soon after, Dana actually appeared, announcing the host of prizes that Griffin would receive in addition to his UFC contract. But he also quickly added that he had conferred with the Fertittas and decided that there was no loser to this fight, and Bonner would also get a contract as well. Now, it was literally this success of this fight and this event that White would later claim that made Spike commit to more seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, more UFC, until soon it was a programming staple all over North America. This was the UFC's foothold on TV, the basis for building its core audience and directing them to pay-per-views that would feed the company for years to come. Now, would it have happened without these 2 unknown light heavyweights beating each other bloody for one night in April? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe it just would have taken longer to get to that same place. But this was the right fight at the right time. A perfect indication of where MMA was and what it could be. A wild and crazy mess, perhaps, but a thrilling one at times. One you couldn't look away from. One that made you want to call a friend, tell them to get a TV, and hurry the heck up, because this could end at any moment. Thank you very much, guys, for staying to the end of the video and checking out the first ever Flashback Friday video. Hopefully I can do more videos like this every Friday, but I guess the next video I will be doing is a preview of UFC 247, Jones versus Reyes. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. 2020 MMA, 1-0.